Hello, assalamu alaikum guys. Today we are going to start the fourth part of our lecture, that is the design of steel bridges. So here in this lecture we will discuss about the design of the concrete deck slab, different design criteria. So the first one will be the minimum slab thickness. So this absolute minimum thickness of the slab is considered equal to 175 millimeter by AASHTO. Traditionally, the minimum thickness was specified in AASHTO standard specification for the purpose of deflection control. So by keeping this criteria in limits, we are going to, this AASHTO is going to be specified this minimum absolute thickness for the slab equal to 175 millimeter. However, AASHTO LRFT removes all the requirements for the maximum deflection. If we talk about the maximum, then LRFT says that we are not going to be provide any limitation on the maximum deflection, so leave it to the judgment of the designer. Therefore, the thickness of the slab for the deflection control is now optional. Okay, so any thickness you can provide, but minimum you have to provide 175 millimeter. So this is the table, that is 2.5.2.6.3-1, that is the traditional minimum depth for the constant depth superstructure for the bridge. So here S is going to be represent the slab's span millimeters and L is going to represent the span length in millimeters. So here you have the different type of the materials used in the bridge deck slab, that is the reinforced concrete, pre-stressed concrete, and just off the steel. So if this is the particular case, then type of the superstructure, that will be the slab with main reinforcement parallel to the traffic. So if we are discussing here in this lecture about the slab, then this first one is needed to be you have to be follow. Okay, so this one, these two values, and in the pre-stressed concrete, this first one is for the slab. Okay, and then the next parameters or next superstructure components will be the T-beams, the box beams, the pedestrian structural beam, etc. And here for the pre-stress you are providing the CIP box beams, you are providing the precast I-beams, and also the pedestrian structure beams and adjacent box beams. So for all the values, what are these? These are the minimum depth including the deck, that is variable depth members are used. Value may be adjusted to account for the change in the relative stiffness for positive and negative movement sections. This is for the variable depth. So if your slab is like going to give you the different type of the sections with variable thickness, sometimes the bridge slab is going to be provided with this type of the section. So this is the section in which the thickness is going to be variable, and usually for the box type of the beams also it happens generally when you have the different variation within the depth of the member. Then you have to be go for the account for the changes for the stiffness for the positive and negative movement sections. So one movement section maybe give you the different relative different values depending upon the relative stiffness of the different components. So you may have the simple spans, you may have the continuous spans for the slab. So the simple spans be there without intermediate you can say the columns or the piers. Then you can use this equation for the minimum depth of the deck slab, that is 1.2 S plus 3000 divided by 30, and for the continuous span it will be S plus 3000 divided by 30 greater than equal to 165 millimeter. That will be the limit minimum. And for others you can see for the pre-stressed concrete also given all of the values in terms of formula, in terms of maximum value, and in terms for the steel also overall depth of the composite I-beam. Here also the beams are there. Generally the slab is provided of concrete. So wherever the concrete be there in these two categories, you can see the slabs. Now span of the slab. So minimum depth we have discussed. Then comes the second design criteria about the span of the slab. So the span of the slab can be decided upon for the monolithic, for the slab, those are monolithically casted with the beams, mean your beams are also of concrete and your slab is also of concrete. So in this particular way you can see the cross section of the slab as in whole. So this face to face distance of the from the beam edges, these are going to give you the span of the slab. So wherever within the design procedures and design formulae it is needed to be input the slab span. Then this span from face to face edge distance of the beams, monolithically casted beam with the slab, this is going to be considered as slab. Okay, so then the second criteria is that's what I have told you in the last lecture also, that is the composite slab on steel or the concrete girders, the distance between the face of the webs. So this will be for the steel girders. Here you can see the steel girder and above the concrete slab. So if this is the particular case, then the span will be from the for this will be the distance between the faces of the web. So it will be the actual span of the slab is considered, and this clear span can be considered from center of the web also. Okay, so sometimes that is the face of the webs. So clear span can be considered from the face of the flanges. This is called clear span. This is not the actual span used in the design of the bridge deck slab spans. This is the clear span actually. So what is the design span for the slab? It is the center to center, mean from the face. This is not center of the web. This is from the face of the web, from both of sides. It is going to be called as the S, capital S means slab span used in the design. Next come the minimum cover to the reinforcement. That for the bridge point of view, it's very important criteria to be discussed, where the clear cover is needed to be provided. So you are well familiar with the cover. What cover is? The cover is for the beam, for the columns, and for the slabs also. It is the bottom edge of the mostly bottom at the bottom placed, the extreme bottom placed reinforced bars to the exterior edge of the concrete surface. Okay, so at the bottom. So we are not discussing about at the top also for the bridge deck slabs, and also for the building slabs also we are going to be having we have to be, sometimes we need to place the reinforcement at the top also, and also we will do for our case for the bridge slab also. So this will be the top cover and this will be the bottom cover. So clear cover is very important. This is mentioned in the codes, clear cover. The clear cover is the distance from the top or bottom of the section to the outer edge of the steel reinforcement. So whether it will be top or it will be bottom. Minimum cover, it's very important to be discussed. It is specified so that there is enough concrete to cover the steel and prevent the steel from the corrosion. A large concrete cover is generally required in corrosive environment. So you have to be see. Here in the next slide, we are continuing with the minimum cover requirement for the reinforcement for the bridge deck slab. So here also enlisted the different conditions, and depending upon those the different requirement. The minimum clear cover for the reinforcing steel and the pre-stressing steel is given in table 5.12.3 and also we will discuss in the coming slide. Adjustment for the water cement ratio is very important, where the water cement ratio is less than 0.4, the concrete tends to be denser, therefore can use only 80% of the value in the table, that is multiplied by the 0.8. Whatever the values are given in this particular table, you have to do some modifications and adjustment depending upon the different criteria, and the first criteria is the water cement ratio. So if the same values you are using by following this particular table by AASHTO, then you have to be careful with the water cement ratio. If it is less than 0.4, your concrete is denser. So for that, the 80% of the value in the table, mean more you have to be you can use the 80% of it, you can reduce the values because already your concrete is denser, so it is less vulnerable to the environment and to the damages and to the ingress of the different materials, humidity and also the salty or the water and other things. But if your water cement ratio is greater than 0.5, so it is not going to give you a denser condition, it will be a porous condition. So for that, whatever the value you are observing in the table, you have to increase those values, and those are specified to be increased 20% of it. So you have to multiply it with 1.2. If there is no initial overlay of the varying surface, you should add another 10 millimeter to the clear cover on the top surface to allow for some wear and tear. Okay, so but generally it doesn't happen. Generally we are going to be provide a separate overlay for the varying surface. Okay, so because for the moving vehicles, it generally happens that the top surface of the bridge deck slab, if the proper designed wearing surface is not provided, then this wear and tear is going to be observed. So if this is going to be done, then that wear and tear can damage the slab, bridge deck slab also from the top. So we have to be give the extra 10 millimeter if the properly designed overlay for the wearing surface is not provided. So this is very important table, 5.12.3:1. That is the cover for the unprotected main reinforcing steels. So for different types of situation, those are enlisted, that which type of the cover or which value of the cover can be preferred. Okay, a minimum. So direct exposure to the salt water, so maximum value of the cover you are providing, that is 100 millimeter. That is extreme situation when it is exposed to the salty water. Okay, so that is prohibited, and but still it is required to construct your bridge within that particular condition. Then you have to be give the maximum cover. Then cast against the earth in soil, so it will be 75, because in the soil larger humidity the water is expected to be come in contact with the slab, so 75 millimeter. Coastal area 75, still larger. Exposure to de-icing salts, it will be 60. Freezing and thawing phenomena be there, and cracks is going to be expected. So deck surface is subjected to tire stud or the chain wear. So if that's that type of the tire and that type of the wear is involved, then 60 millimeter. Exterior other than the above, then 50. Similarly you see for the different conditions, cast in place piles and other things. So whatever the case is, you can see the minimum is 20 millimeter in this table. That is precast soffit with panels. So already the panels has been provided precasted above the slab, then there is no need to provide the larger cover. Above than 20, it will be 25. That is for the bottom of cast in place slabs. Okay, so that will be a number 36 bars that we are providing 25. So for that it is already precasted, so enough strength of the concrete has been provided and checked and ensured in the factories and industries, so minimum are provided. Then comes types of the slab reinforcement. The deck slab may be designed as a one-way slab with the main reinforcement perpendicular or the parallel to the traffic direction. It depends upon the severity of the condition or the situation, that in which direction, meaning if the lateral directional moving vehicle load is more critical, then you can give the main reinforcement perpendicular to the traffic in lateral direction. But if it is you can say critical moving load along the traffic being parallel to the traffic direction, then you can provide the main reinforcement along that. So if the main reinforcement perpendicular to the traffic, this condition is there, found in the girder bridges. Usually girder spacing must not be too large, then you may have the main reinforcement perpendicular. I have told you that if the girder spacing are not too large, must not be too large for that. So if those are closely spaced, then laterally you can provide the main reinforcement. Generally and most of the time, main reinforcement is provided parallel to the traffic, the slab on the floor beams generally. So if your slab is directly casted directly placed on the girder, then it is like a critical situation, that no intermediate floor beams are there to carry the lateral loads, because your floor beams are placed literally in this direction perpendicular to the direction of the traffic, and those are responsible to carry the lateral loads, moving loads. But here it is not the case when your slab is directly placed on the girder, so no laterally supporting element So for that you have to be, and your girders are closely spaced, but still those will not be enough to carry the lateral loads. The main reinforcement can be provided laterally. But for the slab on the floor beams, already the laterally placed supporting elements are there. So the main reinforcement for the slab, as one way slab you can provide in the direction parallel to the traffic direction. Then comes methods for designing a slab. So the first one is the empirical method that we will discuss ahead. Then approximate method, that is called strip method. Generally we will follow that for our case. Refined method, including these are the approximations. Empirical is also based on the empirical values, mean past data, and your approximate method is again approximate, and you have also discussed the enlisted conditions to use the approximate method, and only those particular situation and circumstances you can use this. So it is limited method, you can say, but mostly refined method, using and including all of the factors and situations, all of the design parameters. You can use these refined methods. Those will be going to be called as the classical force and displacement method, yield line method, very famous, and finite element analysis. So continuing with the method of the designing slab, starting with the empirical method. Okay, so empirical method is based on the test data, as I have told you. This is why it's called empirical. Empirical method of design can only be used for the concrete isotropic decks, having two identical layers of the reinforcement perpendicular to each other. So it is going to give you a concept of the main reinforcement. Whatever the reinforcement you are providing parallel to the traffic direction, the same you are providing perpendicular to the reinforcement direction. So to each other, and also in touch with each other, supported on the longitudinal components. So there is no floor beams, mean lateral components. Then you can use this empirical method. So either approximate method or the empirical method, you have different conditions to follow. So for the empirical method, the following conditions needed to be satisfied. The first one is that the cross frames of the diaphragms, we have been discussed in the theoretical part of our chapter, those are used throughout the cross section and lines of the support. So if you remember, in cross section, and then you have the main girder, and you have the floor beams, and in between the main girders, and also I have shared with you guys in your slides also one video, in that also the diaphragm has been provided. So that may be in cross form, that may be laterally, that may be vertically, and in lateral in longitudinal and lateral both directions you can provide. So whatever the cross frames and diaphragms you are providing for the stability purpose, that is needed to be provided throughout the cross section. The supporting components or the girders are made up of steel or concrete. The deck is fully cast in place, no precast, and water cured. The deck has uniform depth except any local thickness. That's very important. For the varying depth, you have to go for some modifications. Core depth of the slab is not less than 100 mm. Effective length of the slab span should be less than equal to 4.1 millimeters. The ratios of effective length as to span depth is between 6 to 18. The minimum depth of the slab 175, that's what we have discussed earlier, excluding the varying surface. So that is the absolute minimum thickness of the slab. You have to be remember. The specified 28 days FC prime deck concrete should be greater than 28 megapascals. So that is to be ensured before using the empirical method. Then number 10, there should be an overhang beyond the center line of the exterior girder equal to minimum of 5 times the depth of the slab, or 3 times depth of the slab with the vertical barrier. If the vertical barrier is provided, then 3 times depth of the slab. If not, then 5 times depth of the slab. Exterior overhang needed to be provided, mean overhang properly. A minimum of 2 shear connectors, that's what I have told you, that at the last, maybe according to one condition, we will not go for the proper design of the shear connectors. we are also we are only go for the empirical methods and their conditions, and according to their conditions we have to provide whatever the minimum requirement is. So minimum requirement is the two shear connectors. So for your case also, when you are going to be do your design problem, and also we will discuss the example problem at the end, the last step of the design will be to provide this minimum. So you have to just write in that particular way whatever the in this condition number 11 is written, so that you have to provide the two shear connectors. So here you have slab, and here you have flange of the girder, main girder, you have web, and also the flange. So these flanges are needed to be connected. So two shear connectors you are providing with proper head inside the slab. These are to avoid the shear slip in between these two materials. So shall be placed at a spacing of 600 millimeters center to center between the steel girders and the deck slab. For concrete girders, stirrups extended into the slab satisfy this requirement. So if it is a concrete, so you are providing internal stirrups for the monolithically connected beams, concrete beam and concrete slab. So those can act as an shear connector, but if these materials are different, then the proper steel shear connectors you have to provide, to connect your flange of the steel girder to the slab itself. So in the longitudinal direction, that spacing should be 600 millimeter. So next, because it is a continuously placed your girder inside of the depth of the slab, so after 600 millimeter, again you are providing another shear connector. I will show you a video at the end of this lecture when we are going to be ending with the design, discussing the example problem. Then I will also show you how to install or how to do on site this procedure of connecting the shear connectors with the slab and girder. And then reinforcement requirement for the empirical method. So isotropic bottom layer steel should have a minimum area of 0.570 millimeter square per millimeter width of the slab. So for the empirical method directly you can use these values. Isotropic top layer steel should have a minimum area of 0.380. If the actually calculated area comes out to be less than that, then maximum this is the minimum one, so maximum you have to be use this 0.570 value, and for the top layer steel you are using this value. The outermost layer of the steel along the depth of the slab is to be placed in the direction of the effective length. Spacing of the steel must be less than equal to 450 millimeter. 4 layers of isotropic reinforcement, same in all the directions, should be provided. The minimum depth of the concrete slab to be used as a deck should not be less than 175 millimeter, as I have told you. You have to be very careful. But NHA suggests a minimum value of 220 millimeter. The varying surface is separately provided. That's you have to be remember. As I have told you, the varying surface thickness will be other than that. Now lastly come for lecture number 4 is the bridge barrier design. That is also required. The barrier is to be designed for the expected forces and experimentally tested before using it on any bridge. The bridge overhang to which the barrier is connected must be stronger than the barrier, and in case of an accident failure should not in case of the accident, failure should not occur in the bridge deck before the barrier. So it doesn't be there that your barrier is deck slab is going to be failed and your barrier is safe. So first of all, the hit, if any traffic or the moving vehicle is going to be hit the barrier in case of the accident, then this barrier should be failed at first, and then there will be a transfer of the forces towards the deck. That should be the design consideration for the bridge barrier. It is important to note that in reality the overhang slab must be properly designed. So what we can do, that we are not going to be give any much focus on the barrier design. It may be of any lesser strength, but we are going to be giving a focus on the overhang part over which the barrier is to be installed or going to be constructed. Okay, so we have to give in reality more focus on the overhang slab part. For the accident limit state and the correspondingly loading, it should be strength enough. It should be having a more strength enough. So these are the bridge barrier designs for different types. So here you can see many times you have been seeing this type of the barriers. So this is also a kind of a barrier. This is almost the same, maybe from the other side. So this is steel kind of the barrier, aluminium. This is also a kind of a steel barrier. Here it is attached with the overhang part. So if any accident be there, so the shock forces are going to be, or impact forces are going to be strike going to be experienced by this part, and from this column, steel column, and then it will come towards the slab and the main girder. Okay, so overhang part of the slab is more vulnerant, because more, you can say, critical as compared to the bridge girder. So it needed to be connected with the girder and with the slab also.